Maimer Veshavti Besholom Tafshin Lamed Ches, Part 3. In the previous Oisias, in the first 3 chapters of the Maimer, we started by explaining the oath that Yaakov made and what he was awaiting and anticipating is that I will return in peace to my father's home, and the questions that we asked on that pasuk and the explanation that this isn't just a story about Yaakov. Like all the stories of Torah, it's a directive, it's a lesson, but even more than that, since it's something that talks about our Avos, it's something which is a directive and something that gives power to every single one of his descendants. That every single one of us has this idea of leaving Beersheba and going to Haran, and what our mission is, and what we accomplish as a result of our mission, and how we accomplish our mission is all something which we explain and understand through this pasuk. And in order to understand that, so the Rebbe explains the concept of Yaakov leaving Beersheba and going to Haran. What's Beersheba and what's Haran? And the Rebbe spoke about 2 levels of Beersheba, 2 concepts of Beersheba. There's the Beersheba of Avram, which obviously Yaakov also has a connection to, and the Beersheba of Yitzchak, which is the main concept over here. The Beersheba of Avram is leaving Bina, understanding, a connection to godliness. When a person is learning and understanding and appreciates while he's learning, he's living in Gan Eden, he appreciates godliness. He leaves that place and he goes to Haran, to Malchus, to a place which is in the physical world, where he has to express what he studied and learned and bring it into action, into practical action in the physical world. However, he's still in the world of Atzilus. He's still expressing what he learned in Bina, what he learned in Beersheba. He's just bringing it down to the next level of bringing it into the physical world. The main concept of Vayetze Yaakov and Beersheba, the main idea of leaving Beersheba and going to Haran is something which was connected to his time, to his father Yitzchak, which is leaving Beersheba, which is Malchus, which means the expression of mitzvahs, the expression of practically doing the things that express godliness in the physical world, and going out to Haran, to a place where godliness is totally not revealed and where one is not involved outwardly with godly pursuits, but rather he's involved with the worlds of separation, the worlds of Bria, Yitzia, Asiya, a place where he's not even involved outwardly with godliness at all. Haran, Charei Nafshel Makom Ba'olam. This is something which every Jew deals with. How do we do it? And this is where the Rebbe continues now in Ois Dalet, that everything starts from Vayetze. The name of the Parsha, the entire Parsha is Vayetze. Everything that happens in this week's Parsha, all these sparks that Yaakov elevates in Haran by Lavan, and as a continuation in Parshas Vayishlach, where Yaakov comes and approaches Esav, and what's the first thing that Yaakov tells Esav? Im Lavan Garti, I lived with Lavan, because in truth, these elevating the sparks of Esav is something that comes as a continuation and as a direct outcome of Yaakov being in Haran. But all of this starts from Vayetze, his leaving. And it's something which is a very powerful lesson for every single one of us. When we're going on shlichus, when we're out on a mission, whatever the shlichus may be, whether it's a shlichus to go out into the world, where it's a shlichus which is officially called and considered shlichus, whether it's a shlichus of going out into the business world. When a person goes out on a shlichus of Hashem, the question is with which way and what type of attitude do we leave? The way we leave Vayetze, the way we leave and go out and set out, that's going to make a difference, and that's going to influence, and that's going to have a direct effect on everything that we do after that. Vayetze, it's all about with what mindset does one leave. And that's what the Rebbe explains. How did Yaakov do it? How did Yaakov manage to go to the lowest and darkest place in the world? Avram left Haran to go to Beersheba. Avram left Haran, went to Eretz Yisrael, went to get involved in the godly world. Yitzchak, his whole life he spent in Eretz Yisrael in a godly place. Yaakov leaves Beersheva. He goes from the highest place and he goes to Haran, to the lowest place in the world. He goes to get involved with Lavan and Esav. He goes to get involved with the darkest points and the darkest aspects of the world and elevate their sparks to Kedusha. Not only that, Yaakov manages something that Avram didn't manage and Yitzchak didn't manage. Avram yatsa mimenu Yishmael. Avram, even though he's the ultimate holy person, there's something that came out of him. There's something that went away from him. There's something on the outside, which that's klippa, that's evil, that's bad, that comes as the outcome of the holiness of Avram. Not Avram himself, but something else can come out, something outside. Yitzchak yatsa mimenu Esav, something bad came out of him. Yaakov was mitase shlema, in Haran, in the lowest place of the world. That's where he established Klal Yisrael. That's where he established 11 out of the 12 Shvatim. That's where he had and created something which was complete, holy, and there's no opposite and there's nothing that's not holy in it. How and why is that? And we say that comes from the mindset and the attitude of Yaakov, which is expressed in the name Yaakov. Yaakov means Yud Eikev. The word Yaakov comes from the name Yaakov, comes from the fact that Yodai Oichezes Ba'akev Esav. The hand of Yaakov was holding on to the heel of Esav. The concept of holding on means he is the one who's in charge. He's the one who controls the lowest part even of Esav. The name Yaakov comes from the word Yud, which is made up of the word Yodai, the hand. The hand of Yaakov is the Yud of Yaakov, the higher part of the name of Yaakov, and the lower part of the name of Yaakov is Eikev, the heel. It starts off from the way Yaakov looks at his own life, and as a result of how he looks at himself, he's able to see how he can accomplish also with the world. When Yaakov looks at his own Eikev, his own heel, the lowest part of his body, the part of his body that's seemingly not connected to holiness, Eikev, we know the heel of a person is the Malach HaMaves Shabadam. It's like the angel of death in the person. It doesn't have many nerves. Its connection to the head, its connection to the neshama, its connection to the life and sustenance of the person is very minimal. It's what walks on the ground. And yet in Yaakov, Yud, Eikev, Yud is the head of his name. It's the top. It's the important part of his name. And that is one. That is what controls the Eikev. What's the Yud? Just like the head of a person controls all the limbs of his body, including the lowest part of the body. What's the Yud of Yaakov? The Yud of Yaakov is the essence of Yaakov, the Chachma in him. The fact, the bittul, and the total nullification and subjugation to godliness. With Avram's level was Chachma or Chesed, a level of godliness, of spirituality. Avram didn't stay separate from the world. In fact, from Avram he became Avram to get involved with the world. But the involvement was still in a manner that there were two things. There's chesed, spirituality, spiritual energy, and then there's a world. Avram was 100% dedicated to the spiritual energy. Avram was able to deal with people in the world. Yet he didn't totally transform the lower world. He had to go from the lower into the higher. And therefore, because he was spiritual, from spirituality, when it comes out, there can be another aspect of Yishmael, of Klippa. Yitzchak was Gvura, another level, or Bina, both aspects, another level in godly energy, in spirituality. Something which is another concept of spiritual world. He couldn't leave Eretz Yisrael. He was spiritual. He was able to dig wells and to bring out godliness within the world itself. But yet, Yatsa Mimenu, there was another aspect that could come out, and that's Esav. He himself was spiritual, but there could be something else as well. Yaakov was Tiferes. Yaakov is the level of Tiferes connection. Yaakov's world Everything is godliness. Yud Akev. What controls the heel? What controls the aspect within him himself? The lowest aspect. It's not something else that has to be subjugated. It's not something else that has to be conquered, that has to be taken over. It's something which its whole existence is the Yud. The Yud of Chachma, the total bittul, the subjugation to Hashem, is the essence of every aspect of his, including and up until the heel as well. When Yaakov left with such a mindset, that my entire existence is godliness, not that there's two separate aspects, my entire existence, including the physical existence and the outside existence, is in truth and in essence is godliness, then Yaakov was able to leave Beersheba. He was able to leave not only the spirituality of Bina, and go down into Malchus. But he was even able to leave Malchus, to leave a place of Torah and even of mitzvahs, and to go out into the lowest place of the world of Haran. And not only did that place not conquer him and not have any effect on him, but he came in that place. He transformed the place, both of Lavan and of Esav, and as a result, in his life, there was nothing else, there was nothing separate that came out, everything was Kedusha. And hence, in that sense, when Yaakov left, when he left with that type of mindset, so when he started, and this is the Yaakov of every Jew, he started with the fact that my Akev, my heel is controlled by my Yud, and eventually it came to the fact that Yud actually is what controls every single aspect of the world. Even Haran, even the most outer, seemingly outside aspect of the worlds of Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, they're in essence, and their reality is that they're fully and completely controlled by the truth of godliness. This is also expressed in the Yud of Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya means Haya, Heva, V'yeh Kechad, was, is, and will be all as one. It's above time, it's above space. It's the truth of Yud, the constancy of who's controlling the world, who's making the world come into existence. It's Hashem. The reality and the realization that the truth of the world, the truth of Haran, the truth of Lavan and Esav is the Yud of godliness. As such, Yaakov was able to go out, he was able to transform the world. He was able to take every aspect of the outside world, the lowest aspects of the outside world, and transform them, and be able to come to a sense that it could become a dwelling place for Hashem down here in this world. And then the Rebbe continues in Ois Hey to say that when Yaakov does this, and every Jew when he does this, and accomplishes and transforms the world, as a result, he now reaches a much higher level than he was before he left. That's something which we'll explain more in the continuation of the Maimer. But before that, the Rebbe says, it's not only that once I go out to do my mission, and I accomplish my mission, I'm going to reach a higher level. We spoke about leaving Vayetze. The very fact that I decided to leave on a mission, the very fact that I went down to the lowest part of the world, as I leave, Hashem gives me the highest type of strength and power to be able to give me the strength to be able to accomplish my mission. Which means that Yaakov, in order to bring Yud into the Eikov of the world, he gets a level which is higher than the Yud. The 375 Nahayrin lights of Arich, which we'll explain in Hashem in the next lesson. And this is the idea of Yaakov coming. He brings something which is even above Chachma, above the Yud. He gets a light that's higher. Why is that? Because it says in the pasuk Tzaveh Yeshua is Yaakov. The word Yeshua means salvation. Who gets the salvation? And the word Yeshua also refers to the 375 lights and the 375 illuminations that come from Arich. When does a person get something that's above himself, above even the Yud, above even the head of Yaakov himself? When does a person get that? when he needs to be saved. When he goes down into a lower place, when he decides to go to Charan, when he decides to go to the lowest place in the world, in order to fulfill his mission over there, then not only once he fulfills his mission does he reach a higher level, but the very fact that he leaves, the very fact that he goes out, and the very fact that he's in a place that needs help, causes Hashem to give him a much higher power than he's ever had before and that he's ever imagined before, to enable him to fulfill his mission, to enable him to connect the whole world to Elokus and to fulfill the prayer that he says, Veshavti Besholom, the returning in peace, the having the Bahaya Havai Lila Likim, until making the stone itself become a Beis Alikim, as we will learn in Mitzvah Hashem in the next lesson.